Here's with the Blacklight. Check that out. Alright guys, it's David from Red Wagon Dioramas, and I picked up Jake Sully's Banshee from the Avatar film at Target this week. And I also picked up Jake Sully himself. So I'm going to open these up, play with them, give you my thoughts. I've only watched one review on these so far, and that's with Artemis Prime. And I didn't know they had the blacklight feature where they light up, so I'll try that later with the blacklight. Should be kind of cool. So this looks cool with the metal stand and the posability. I'm looking forward to getting this open and seeing what he's like. I love big creatures. I love monsters and that sort of thing. Retail is $24.99 for the figures in US dollars and $50 for the Banshee. So I thought that was pretty reasonable for the, you know, the size of the figure and everything and the detail. So I'm going to do the figure first and then I'll get to the Banshee. Comes with a stand like most of the McFarlane figures. Nice little Avatar logo there. Alright, so there he is out of package. Jake Sully in his Avatar body. First impressions here. So again, I'm not a big McFarlane collector. We have maybe 5 or 6 DC figures, you know, from Batman type figures. And I have a couple of the larger, you know, like Bane and Killer Croc. But this basically has, you know, he has double pinned elbows, double pinned knees. So he's got a good range of motion. I do like the pin there in the foot. You do get that extra articulation, which is nice. Yeah, basically a ball joint in the torso there. Kind of hidden by this decorative corset piece here. The sculpt is really nice on this. And I would say, like, first impressions, the paint is good. Like the face looks really good. I have to look really, really hard right now to find the iridescent dots that light up with the UV light. I can see them when I'm looking for them, but I didn't notice them offhand even when I saw it in the store. So it's kind of a cool feature that those are hidden in the paint scheme. Just for background, I am a fan of the Avatar movie. I really enjoyed that movie when it came out. I thought it was pretty groundbreaking just with the 3D and the graphics. And overall the story, yeah, was pretty predictable, but it was fun. It was a fun movie. I loved just the environments that they created with that film, especially all the creatures. So that's what really drew me to buy this figure, was so I could put him on his Banshee dragon creature. He's got like a really long neck that's sculpted into the chest piece, so that there's no, it'd be kind of nice if there was a ball down here at the base of the neck, so he can look down really good. Can't look up that much, and I guess that's because of his hairpiece. The ponytail is very flexible, nice and long. I want to know how this is going to interact with the Banshee creature. I'm imagining that this is going to connect to the Banshee like they do in the film. I thought that was a cool part of the movie. For accessories here, he has a knife, and there's a bit of a wash on the blade itself. I like it. It's pretty nice. Slides into this sheath here. This is kind of weird how it's an open sheath. I saw that on Artemis's review, how he doesn't like those sheaths. And I wasn't aware that that's something McFarlane's known for. But I agree, it can fall out pretty easy. I don't know why they would do it that way. It must be part of their tooling process. Probably saves them some money. For hands, he has an open grip hand, pretty large open grip. I imagine that's probably for something for the riding on the Banshee. And he's got kind of a closed fist weapon holding hand here. So he can hold the knife in that weapon hand on his right hand, or he can hold the bow. Okay, maybe the bow can go in here. It's still pretty loose here, so it's a really large open hand kind of grip pose there. He does have extra hands. He comes with a left hand for pulling back his bow, which is interesting for knocking an arrow. So it means he's left-handed, I guess. And then the same large open grip style hand for the right hand too. The bow is just a single molded plastic piece with the arrow kind of right next to the bow, so you wouldn't be able to use this bow to pose him in a shooting stance or anything like he's fighting with. It's just an accessory he's carrying with him. Wow, he can do a really wide split. Again, I'm not sure how he's going to fit on the Banshee, so maybe that's for riding the Banshee. It'd be nice if there was a upper thigh swivel here, but there isn't. There's no swivel in the lower leg either, just at the ankle. Feet do have a really good range of motion on the ankles there. And both the wrists are hinged in the same direction. Kind of that side to side hinge. Oh, I forgot his tail. So his tail, let's take a look. Very rubbery, bendy plastic, just like the hairpiece. And yep, it's on just a ball joint there. So you get a decent amount of range of articulation there with the tail. I don't know what the point of this knocked arrow hand sculpt is if you don't actually have a bow that you can draw back or knock an arrow and there's no separate arrow that comes with it. So I don't see when you'd ever use this hand for this figure. All right, so Jake stands basically 7.5 inches tall, which is standard for McFarlane's, DC figures. They're all around 7 inches. Here's one of McFarlane's larger figures, the Bane figure. Now he's 9 inches. Now here's what I'd consider a pretty standard Marvel Legends figure, Havoc here. He's gonna be, just over 6 inches? Yeah, he's like 6.5 with that crown on his head. Here's an example of Black Series figure. This is the repaint of the Darth Maul sculpt. So these avatar bodies are supposed to be 8 to 10 feet tall. So if it was a true 1/12 scale, like in scale with this Night Brother, then that figure should be like Bane's height or even a little taller than Bane. So he's too small to be 1/12 scale. But if you put a 3 3/4 inch figure there, just take one of these Stan Solo repros here. He's too big to be in that scale too. So he should be, he's somewhere between the two scales. Like he's too big to be 1/18 scale and he's too small to be 1/12 scale. So he's somewhere in maybe 1/15 scale or something like that. It's an odd thing that McFarlane did with the scale here. I think they're just used to their 7-inch form factor for the figures they've been doing, for DC. So maybe that was an easy size for them to run them at. Okay, let's open up the Banshee. I'm really excited for this. This is the main reason I bought this set. I love creatures. I love giant dragons, monsters, all that stuff. And this looks really fun. I haven't seen any reviews on this, so I'd say I'm coming into it with high expectations, but I really don't know what this thing is like. I haven't seen anybody else with one of these opened yet. So this is a raw, fresh perspective review. Ooh, I smell that plastic. Tell you what, if this was windowless packaging, if this was just in a cardboard box, I would not have been drawn to it like I was seeing it on full display like this. There's something to be said for plastic packaging to see what these action figures look like. This was totally an impulse buy for me, guys. This was not on my radar. I didn't even know this product was coming out yet. Good job for McFarlane as far as their presentation and the packaging. Looks awesome. I don't even know what to do here first. Let's see what happens here. Okay, he's just loose set in there, no rubber bands or anything. And his wings just folded over. Okay, I thought maybe there was some assembly I was gonna have to do or something. But he's actually all intact in one piece. Wow, look at that. Oh, this is cool. He's so big. This is a 2-foot tabletop. These tiles here I've got laid out. So yeah, he's just over 2 feet wingtip to wingtip. And the tail. And that's it for packaging. It's all you got in the packaging. The fact that it's fully assembled and just comes right out of the package so easily, I think that's really nice. Is this a bendy tail? I think it's a bendy tail. It is. Yeah, it's got the wire in there. Oh, well done, McFarlane. This is good. Looks like there's a little bit of a bite there. I gotta plug it in. It took a bit of effort, but went in nice and tight. Nice tight joint there. Pretty seamless. I don't even know how to film this, guys. He's so big. Let's check out the underside here. They basically have 4 limbs. I thought they were 6-legged in the movie. I guess I'm wrong. Everything here is rigid. This is articulated? This little claw. Oh, this little claw rotates. Okay. But these, like, larger wing panels here kind of look like big feathers. Those are all one single molded piece that's glued in there. So you basically got a swivel and a hinge joint here for the main wings. And then at the shoulder, you've got rotation, and you get this larger piece, which looks to be another, kind of like a butterfly joint. All right, so while I was posing this guy, the Banshee, I did pop the wing out of the socket, not intentionally, by accident. I just kind of pushed it too far. And you can see that this is just a, it's not a true butterfly joint, it's just a separate piece loose to kind of cover the joint as you move it around. And then the wing is just a simple ball and socket there. So you just got this piece that kind of fits in there loose. Then I'll plug this guy back in. So the neck is a single rigid piece about 3-4 inches long. That's on a ball joint here. And then the head is also on a ball joint, so you can pivot it all the way around. And you've got kind of straight forward look, or you can angle it down pretty far, almost 90 degrees. The jaw does not articulate. There is no closing his mouth. I thought the mouth would close on it, but I guess not. They went with the open, kind of the screaming, roaring pose, which is cool. It's pretty intimidating looking. Real nice paint on this whole thing. The colors, there's like a blended, you know, aquamarine, blues and greens for the base layer, and then you got these black deco patterns applied over everything. Saddle piece is supposed to be kind of like a leathery material. It's all just brown. Looks like there is a sheath right here for his bow and arrow, I'm assuming. So it looks like this can slide right in here. Looks like maybe his legs go in here, his knees kind of rest on these. With the ball joint here for the stand, obviously. That is really hard to get in there. I'm gonna have to use some serious force to get that in there. No paint on the underside at all. That's kind of surprising. You'd think you'd have this thing flying up. You maybe hang this from your ceiling or something, and it'd be nice to have some paint on the underside. Very, very plain. That's a little disappointing. But the paint at the top looks amazing. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna play with them a little bit more, and then I will record some poses and give you my final thoughts. As far as the stand here, it did go in pretty easily after it just took a little bit of effort really to pop it in there and just pop it down. So yeah, it takes a little bit of effort, but it's very sturdy. I like the stand. Nice and solid. Oh my, Jake, what happened to your torso joint there? I didn't realize he had popped right off when I was putting it on the stand. See, he needs more ab crunch there. It's kind of stressing the figure trying to get him posed on there. Here's a good look at the engineering the joints inside the little diaper crotch piece there. And that ball joint just goes up into there, which is on another ball. Okay, guys, so I've got a manufacturing mistake here. On the back wing on the right side, this is the left hand piece installed here on the right. So I've got the same piece on both sides. See how nice and smooth the sculpt matches up here? And there's a bit of a curvature to the wing, kind of a downward curvature to the wing here. And the claw kind of curves down. So that same piece from the left side is mistakenly installed here on the right side as well. Looks like it was all assembled and then the paint deco went on. So it's still painted. It looks okay, but the sculpt doesn't match up. You see how that, see how the contour of the wing is kind of downward here, but this side is the opposite direction. And the claw is kind of angling up instead of down. So that's disappointing. And honestly, that's probably disappointing enough for me to return this and ask for a different one. Okay, so I've got Jake on here on the Banshee. This was difficult to do. It works. It's okay. You can kind of see him there. Looks all right. Again, the figure is limited because I can't get him to crunch down any further. The wrist joints, the wrists are working okay. He's holding on to the, whatever these are, the tendrils of the creature, okay. You can plug his hair into the Banshee's, you know, I'm going to call it tentacle for now. There's a little slot there so you can connect the hair. I'll do it right now. Just kind of pinch them together there. Yep, see, they don't want to stay together. You kind of see it there. So that's the connection you get. At least you can do it. That's nice. as I'm playing with him and trying to get him posed on here, I really can't get much of a pose with Jake on the Banshee other than what I've got here with him holding on. So he's very much upright. I really was hoping he would crouch down more, kind of a more streamlined aerodynamic pose. If you look down here at the saddle area, he's got this sculpted kind of curvy thing. I presume that's where you rest his knees. Kind of if he was down lower, his knee would kind of hang out in there and his leg would go back. But just with the size of the sculpt of the Banshee and the figure, you can't really get any lower than that. So he's kind of got his loincloth kind of tucked behind him there. And it can't really squish him down any further. And that's part of the limitations of his legs too. I think if his legs, he's got a nice wide split in the hip joint there, but then there's no rotation again with the thigh, and that would help if he could split out and then rotate the thigh, and then his legs could come in. I think you'd be able to get him a little tighter to the creature that way. But I do have both legs kind of resting in the saddle here. Now, in case you're wondering, the saddle is a separate, you know, all this brown is a separate piece, obviously, that's pegged in and glued to the main sculpt of the body. So I suppose you could remove that. You're going to be left with probably some kind of peg holes here on the top, you know, a hole here in the front, which you'd probably have to sculpt in and paint if you wanted to get one of these that, you know, didn't have the saddle on it. Spin around, you can see the back here. So this is kind of where I've got him. He's kind of cockeyed to the left there. See that gap opens up on his chest when you try to crunch him down. His bow and arrow slide into this sheath really well, so that looks nice. That fits pretty well. You can articulate the wings, either downward position or up, like I just had it. Kind of like this X pose. Reminds me of a certain Star Wars ship, you know what I mean? So there's a nice shot of the creature's face. Get the nice yellow eye. Even the inside of the mouth has nice paint deco. Looks really good. Okay, so I repositioned Jake so he's laying flat on the back of the Banshee. And I kind of like this. This works as well. I think maybe the Jake figure is a little too big. I'm not sure what it is. I have to look at the scale in the movie. But I think maybe if he was a little bit smaller, might fit better. But then you probably wouldn't get his legs underneath. So I don't know. They probably had to strike a balance between, you know, what they do in the movies versus what they can actually, you know, sculpt and engineer in real life, right? The wrist hinges, I wanted to point out, if they were hinged the other direction, it'd be easier for him to grab onto these, you know, tentacles for the Banshee and hold on. Because they're hinged, you know, into the palm. It'd be better if his hands were hinged in, you know, up and down position instead of side to side like they are. All right, here's another pose I put Jake in on top of the Banshee. This time he's kind of bear hugging him, wrapping his arms around him, holding on for dear life. I don't know what it is. It's like it's almost there, but not quite, you know? It's kind of my overall thoughts with this figure pack. Is the Banshee looks awesome. Jake looks good by himself. We put them together, they just don't quite fit the way you hope they would. But that being said, it's still an awesome set. And visually, it's stunning. I mean, it just looks incredible. Jake just, he looks a little bored. You know what he would benefit from would be another head sculpt. A screaming, open mouth, or maybe wide-eyed, kind of like, you know, that exhilarating scene he has where he first rides the Banshee. A head sculpt like that where he's kind of shouting out in both terror and excitement. I think that would have been a nice addition to this figure. So tip of the tail to the tip of the nose, he is about 21 3/4 inches, just shy of 22 inches. Wingtip to wingtip, when fully outstretched, 24 3/4 inches. Wow. Top of Jake's head is about 15 inches off the ground, so if you wanted to pose this on a shelf, you'd need a good probably 16 inches of head space easily. And depth of shelf, you're going to need a 12-inch shelf to display this guy. All right, guys, here's with the Blacklight. Check that out. Isn't that cool? Look at Jake Sully. He's got all those dots right on his... That is awesome. The knee and elbow joints made out of the harder plastic. They really stand out, don't they? But there's those blacklight iridescent dots. You don't even notice them on the figure. I didn't even notice them on the Banshee at all when I was playing with them. You don't, they kind of blend into the rest of the paint. But then look at his chin here. Look at that. Isn't that cool? I don't know if it's picking up on the camera or not, but that bright iridescent orange is pretty cool. Let's get the same thing on the ends of his tendrils there. Look at that. Now this is just a cool factor for this figure. I don't know how else to say it, but kind of bumps this thing up a notch, I think. Again, another reason why you'd want to display this thing where you could actually see the backside of the wings and everything. Wouldn't really want to just hang them from your ceiling. You'd be missing out on the best parts. Alright guys, so before I finish this review, I was already into editing and then I realized I needed to try something. I put a Marvel Legends on here and he just fits so much better. Somebody commented on my Instagram post that, you know, the figure looked oversized for the Banshee, and I agree. Jake Sully, just his legs were too long and his torso was too big. It didn't really fit down into the saddle. And you can see, like, I watched the movie again, so I was wrong. The legs don't rest on these. The feet are actually supposed to rest on these little curved saddle things, like stirrups for a horse. And there's just no way for the Avatar figure to fit on the saddle like that unless he's like standing up. But the Marvel Legends fits really well, actually. So I just picked Morph because he was nearby and he's kind of a skinny character, average height. He's like 6¼ inches tall. So I thought he kind of had the thin form of the Avatar characters at least. And you get a sense, you know, he has a better ab crunch there. He can bend forward better. His legs, just everything fits better on the saddle. So I think really that's the issue here, is that the figure is just a little too big for the Banshee. Anyway, I think this looks more natural and more like what he looks like in the movie when Jake is riding him. Let me know what you guys think. You agree? Alright guys, so to wrap it all up, summarize everything I said, here's the pros. The price, excellent price, well worth it. Compared to the other action figures that are out there on the market, you know, $50 for the Banshee and $25 for the figure, that's a good value. Secondly, the look of the figures together, really amazing. So well done. The paint scheme, the colors, the sculpt, everything is very good. And if you're an Avatar fan, you'll absolutely love to have this piece on your shelf. Another positive that I didn't really talk about is the stand. The display stand is very sturdy. I found it to be easy to use. You do have some posability on the ball joints. You can have the Banshee banking to the left or the right, or, you know, up, down. So that's kind of a nice feature. Drawbacks would just be the overall fit of the figure with the Banshee. Like I said, I think the articulation is a little bit limiting on the Jake figure, especially the ab crunch, the direction of the joints in the wrists, and the lack of rotation in the thighs. So it makes it a little difficult to get him to sit on there. This is pretty much the best pose I can get right here. Also, he's just a little too big for the Banshee. It'd be better if he was like an inch shorter, then I think everything would fit together a little better. Using the Marvel Legends as an example, that figure fit on here so much better than the McFarlane figure. Also, the quality control issue is kind of a negative for me, having that incorrect wing piece on the back wing. Hopefully that's not a common problem. Oh, and of course, the really cool factor piece that I forgot to mention is the Blacklight, you know, the luminous paint feature. That is just really fun. That's kind of icing on the cake, I think, for this set. So overall, would I recommend this? Yes, I would recommend it. If you're a fan of action figures in general, you'll probably have a great time with this. Just have reasonable expectations, you know, for the price point. I think it's a really great set. So I know I kind of gave it a 7 out of 10 when I posted about this on Instagram initially, but I'm going to bump that up to an 8 out of 10. And that's really in consideration of the price point. I think for the price of $75 for this set, I think it's very, very good. You know, if you can live with some of the scale issues and the articulation of, you know, issues with the figure on its back, I think you'll be really satisfied with this piece. So overall, I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. I did have a lot of fun playing with it and posing with it. It looks amazing. And now I just got to figure out where I'm going to put it in my display. All right, guys, appreciate you watching. As always, leave me a comment below. Hit the like button for me. And if you're new, please subscribe. Thanks a lot. I'll catch you on the next one.